have a brand new coach, not only to them, but maybe even to coaching. Plus, a look at the Thursday night football matchup and which of the bad teams might actually make the playoffs. More on that, plus all of the picks in Week 10 on this week's edition of The Huddle, presented by OddsChecker. I'm Pat Mayo, joined, as always, by Ross Tucker, Pam Maldonado, and Brian Matthews to bring you everything Week 10, and we are going to start, actually, with Thursday Night Football. We have the Atlanta Falcons, 3-point favorites at the Carolina Panthers, and this spread has already come down from 4, where it opened earlier in the week. This is a rematch of one of the crazier games that we saw 2 weeks ago. So both these teams lost on Sunday. Atlanta kind of got out to a big lead and fell back to the Chargers, where the doors just got absolutely blown off the Carolina Panthers in Cincinnati. Ross, I want to kick it to you first with this one. Although my Falcons have been struggling, did the Panthers season end with DJ Moore taking off his helmet?
Certainly feels like it did, Pat, or at least they think it did, right? Because that was an absolute total no-show by them against the Bengals. Very disappointing. I may or may not have had the Panthers getting 7 points. I may or may not be mad at the Panthers right now for the no-show performance. I mean, no Jamar Chase, and you let Joe Mixon single-handedly destroy you like that. That was about as one-sided of an NFL game as I've ever seen, which is why I could only lean Atlanta here. I know that the Falcons are banged up at corner. Falcons haven't been playing quite as well, but the Falcons are at least consistent. They've been in every game. They've been right there. Carolina, I have no idea what to expect. A little surprised they're going with P.J. Walker again in this game. They fired a couple of assistant coaches. Who's coaching those positions? Why are we? What is going on? I could only lean to Atlanta laying the points. If it was below 3, it'd probably be a play for me. Right at 3, as we talk now, I think it's probably just a lean to Atlanta for me.
Yeah, I'd lean the same way here. I feel like, if it were at plus 2.5, I'd like it. Atlanta's been solid, and I think if you look, Joe Mixon's been struggling this year, and I was kind of surprised to see him go nuclear for 5 touchdowns. So, I think when you have Cordero Patterson back and Tyler Algier, they form a pretty decent running back combination, and they like to run the ball there in Atlanta.
Well, you guys are looking to a side. I'm more interested in kind of the total because I know that Panthers look absolutely abysmal last week on offense, but it was against the Bengals, and they are still one of the better defenses in the league, which is why they were able to get to the Super Bowl last year. So I'm inclined to take the over on 43.5 because both Atlanta and Carolina have faced a very difficult schedule of defenses. Atlanta in the last 6 games, 3 top 10 opponents in defense DVOA. Carolina's last 6 games, 4 opponents in top 10 for defense DVOA. So when you finally have these 2 not so great offenses, when they both have both really bad defenses, it's kind of a relief, which is why we saw 60 points in the first matchup. Now, do I expect another 60 points in this one? No, but it could be like 27-24, 24-21. It's very doable, and PJ Walker, he could have a huge bounce back because this Falcons secondary is not good, so we may see a bounce back from both teams here.
Before we get into the Sunday matchups, I do want to hit on the Colts' new coach. They announced this week they're letting go of Frank Reich, which, shout out to you, Ross and Pam, who both said that Frank Reich would be the next coach out the door once Matt Rule was let go. So cash those tickets already. They've fired their offensive coordinator. They've benched Matt Ryan. They might be covertly keeping Jonathan Taylor out of the lineup, regardless of whatever his health is going to be. So now that they have a former offensive lineman turned media personality, Ross, are you up next to get a head coaching gig?
You know what? Now that everybody's talking about the tweet he said where the Raiders are terrible, I think it's my tweets that have prevented me so far from getting one of these interim head coaching gigs. I would be amazing, by the way. I would take any interim head coaching gig right now. They would ask me who my starting quarterback is. I'd be like, no, I'm going to go with Sam Ellinger, presented by the Ross Tucker podcast. I would milk that for everything I possibly could. Listen, I have known Jeff Saturday for a long time. I love Jeff Saturday. As a person, as a player, as a man, he was phenomenal for the NFLPA and instrumental in getting the 2011 CBA done. I would hire Jeff Saturday to do a lot of things. I would hire him to be very high in the front office, maybe even give him a GM job in the offseason. I can hire him as a coach. I also love outside the box ideas. Very open to outside the box ideas. But this is ludicrous. I mean, this is asinine. This is not like hockey or basketball. There's a lot involved here. There's scheme on both sides of the ball. There's terminology and language. There's a big roster, a huge coaching staff. To just drop a guy in like this out of nowhere is ludicrous. I don't see any way it goes well. I don't think Jim Irsay really knows what he's doing. We talked last week about how Jim Irsay's made them bench Ellinger. Made them bench Matt Ryan for Ellinger. If they're trying to win games, why is Nick Foles not starting right now? What is happening? If they're really trying to win games this year, I don't get it. I know he's a UT guy, Pam, but Ellinger's terrible from what we've seen so far. Now they're putting Saturday in there. He's naming a 30-year-old kid who's the assistant quarterbacks coach as the play caller. The Colts feel like they're a total mess and disaster right now. It's scary.
So when you say ludicrous, though, maybe ludicrous in a good way, because for me, obviously I don't play football. I've never been in the NFL, but I'm thinking just from like an outsider view, it's kind of obvious to me that those who do have experience it doesn't always matter. Just look at Cliff Kingsbury, look at Ron Rivera, Brandon Staley. There's coaches who have experience, and what are they doing that's exceptional, that's going to like blow the waters out of people? I'm interested, let's try something different. Why not outside the box thinking? And I think that, Irsay is correct. Like, the politics of being a coach is maybe messing up being a coach. Saturday, he is an analyst. So let's see what he can bring to the coaching table with that type of background. And I know that people are making fun when the Colts owner, Jim Irsay, had to say about hiring Saturday. I'm glad he doesn't have experiences. Coaches go to analytics and it gets difficult. I can appreciate the willingness to try something new. So why not just see what happens? Be negative about it afterward when it completely falls flat. But for now, why aren't we excited about something different and new in the NFL?
I could tell you why. He was 3-7 with his current high school team. And like Ross said, you're dropping a guy into a locker room where he doesn't know these guys. And this is a new surrounding. He hasn't coached before, and the quarterback this whole situation's confusing. I look at this and it's like what Ross said. It's kind of like, are we serious here? Is this actually happening? Jeff Saturday. I mean, you heard his, reaction is like, I was shocked when I got the call, and he should be. I almost feel like he passes up a lot of guys that are in the building, working hard, and for him to say that, it's better to be unscathed, but of the rigors and the challenges of being a head coach. I think it's when you go through those that it makes you a better coach, and so this is kind of unique. I think it's his guy, so I think he's pulling him in for this. But this whole situation just seems kind of bizarre to me.
Brian, can I run a theory by you on this one?
Please.
So I think Jim Irsay might be the most realistic person about his team, because we kind of laughed at the Colts for the first 6 weeks of the year. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe they have the record they have, because they're kind of god awful. That if you take out Matt Ryan, who was not playing well, yet they were tying and winning games, you have your best running back, you have your coach, that if you get rid of all of these pieces, no longer run the risk of going 6-10-1 and ending up with the 13th pick of the draft. That knowing there's so many good quarterbacks at the very top of this draft, and knowing you're probably not going to have a worse record than the Texans, but having a top 5 pick is going to be very valuable this year, especially when you've been running retread veteran quarterbacks out there the past 3 years with very marginal success. That this might not be the Sam Hinkie 76ers, but is he actively tanking his team?
All right, so I kind of got that's where you're going when you were mentioning the Jonathan Taylor health thing. And look, he's on my fantasy team, so I don't get what's going on here. But, if you look at it, all right, it might be. There are some good quarterbacks at the top this year. This isn't last year's draft, where you're going to see, one quarterback in the first round. There's some big names at the top. So like you said, when you're going through and you're seeing Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, Phillip Rivers, kind of grabbing guys at the end of their career, maybe find a good young one. I mean, Ellinger isn't it. But if he's going to be the guy, stick with it. But I agree. Foles, I think, does give him the best chance to win. He's been there before, and why not try it out? What's the worst that happens? They can't look worse on offense now.
Saturday and Foles. Can't can't wait for that. Let's see what that looks like.
I mean, Super Bowl champ Nick Foles.
Yeah.
So let's not go
Yeah,
crazy here
well,
around
You're correct.
like what is now turning into weekly punching bag Sam Ellinger out there. So that's not a great scene. Anyway, let's move to two teams that are very good, although the Bills didn't look so good on Sunday. But you have the 7-2 Bills hosting the 7-1 Minnesota Vikings, winners of 6 games by a score or less so far this season, thus making them this year's Las Vegas Raiders from last year, based on the performance that they have going on right now. But they're giving up to 7.5 points to the Bills right now, Sunday in Buffalo. At different places, it's down to as low as 6 because no one really knows what's going on, at least right now, of what's happening with Josh Allen's elbow. And it seems like it's more of a hedge line from the book right now, where if you had a completely healthy Allen, it would be one way. And if you didn't have Allen, obviously that spread is going to drop a little bit. But I actually want to talk about the Vikings in particular here and just really focus on them. Pam, we'll start with you. No one really seems to be a believer in the Vikings being 7-1. Are they as good as a 7-1 record? Most people would say absolutely not. But you are what your record is, and they are 7-1. If they were 4-3, it feels like they'd be getting more respect right now.
I mean, look at the wins. You nailed it. All their wins have been like 1 score or less. And Kirk Cousins, I mean, if he had done this little gimmick of his glasses and shirtless a week ago, that would have been every frat boy's Halloween costume on the plane, shirtless, just running around the streets. I don't know. They're bad. The Vikings are like, I'm not trying to like hop on the bandwagon of saying that they are the most fraudulent team in the NFL, but you barely snuck out win against Detroit 28-24. You've barely snuck out to the Saints, who we saw how bad they are over on Monday night. I mean, Chicago was able to put up 22 points before they had an offense. Like, these are just very narrow victories, and I was really hoping that Washington could pick them off, and they nearly did, but they are so fortunate when it matters most. And maybe I am undervaluing that Kirk Cousins is a better quarterback in the fourth quarter when it does matter in the final 2 minutes of the game and this defense is stepping up. We do know that they do have a solid pass rush. They have one of the best running backs in Dalvin Cook. So I'm like 50-50 on how to feel about them. But they're not better than the Bills. I know that much.
Well, they're not bad. I think at some point in there, Pam, you might have used the word bad. They're 7-1. They're good. Like, winning games still matters. Scoring more points than the opponent still matters. I get all the advanced metrics and analytics. I understand points for. At the end of the day, it's hard to win games. It doesn't matter by how much you win by. The way it works is, at the end, whatever your record is determines the seeding. And then how you play in the playoffs is based upon that. They're a good team. Their defense is much better than it was last year under Mike Zimmer. Daniil Hunter's a stud. Zadarius Smith is awesome. They're much better on defense. And then offensively, Justin Jefferson is one of the best receivers in the league. Dalvin Cook's one of the best running backs. Now they have Hockenson at tight end. Thielen's a terrific number 2 receiver. Their offensive line's much better than it was last year. Kirk Cousins is a top 12 quarterback, maybe top 10. I mean, what am I missing here? They are good. They are legit good. I don't think they're as good as the Philadelphia Eagles, and we saw that. And I don't think they're as good as the Buffalo Bills, but it is hard to get 7-1. And by the way, they were down by 10 points in the fourth quarter in Washington. That's a really impressive win. That's really impressive against a team that had won 3 in a row on the road, down 10, to come from behind and find a way to win that game.
I will say that I think I am more impressed with the Vikings 7 win than the Eagles undefeated. Because
here we go again.
I mean, okay.
Oh my gosh.
Look,
Pam.
you did things. Well, I mean, I don't know. Washington has a really good pass rush. Miami is one of the better offenses in the league. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like biased, but like if you replace Kirk Cousins and replace his name with any other quarterback in the league a year ago, like maybe Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, whatever, they would be getting a lot more love and recognition. But he just put Kirk Cousins into the equation, and maybe we're just undervaluing him, and maybe just stop undervaluing him.
I think we're looking at it, it's like, if you look at that game, Art, I'd love to say, if Heineke doesn't throw that terrible pick late in the game, they go ahead and the Commanders win. But also, the ref did aid on a Curtis Samuel touchdown, so we'll negate those. But no, it is hard to win games, and they do have a good defense. I don't think it's the Kirk Cousins thing necessarily. It's Instead, I'm waiting for them to put one of those games together where you see it on both sides. And, when we saw them against the Eagles and some of the better teams, okay, we kind of thought. So I'm still on the fence as far as how good they are. They are a good football team, no question. And maybe it just needs to be Kirk Thuggins moving forward. I think the chains might have done something for him.
It's funny, like when you look at their overall DVOA for the year, for example, they're 18th. And even when you filter it as an undefeated team over the past month, they're still 14th. And when you take a look at the odds for the NFC right now, they're still plus 650. That's fifth in the NFC. Doesn't that seem, we know what their path is going to the playoffs. They're going to win the North, and are they going to have a bye? Probably not, but it's still theoretical that the Eagles could lose 2 games along the way. Could the Vikings win out? They win every other game, so why not? That it does feel, Brian, like those odds are a bit steep.
It does, and I that might have something to do with the Cousins factor, or look who's at the top of the conference right now. But it does feel steep. Plus 650, that's actually a good value. I'd like to see them do it against a good team. I'm interested this weekend. I don't think I know enough with the Josh Allen injury to feel confident. But hey, look, if anybody's to come in and do a decent job, Case Keenum, and he also has history with one of their best receivers, their best receiver, Stephon Diggs.
We're going to find out really quick here in the next few weeks exactly what this Vikings team is made of, because they are at the Bills, home against one of the best pass rush, if not the best, in the Cowboys, a Patriots defense, and a Jets defense, who I am convinced, yes, is a solid team. So then that alone is going to give me some solidified answers as to what the Vikings actually are.
Ross, there's been a lot of underperforming teams this season that we thought were going to be good, but when you take a look at the standings, there's simply a lot of parity, and there's no real rhyme or reason to what's going on here. So I have to make the playoff odds from teams we expected to be, either great to good coming into the season, teams that we thought were going to make the playoffs. And I want to run these 5 by you, and you tell me who actually has the best chance here. And we can go through the odds as well. You have the Rams, they're 2-1 to make the playoffs right now. The Broncos are 8-1. The Packers, because it's the Packers, plus 650. Of course, they would have shorter odds. Vegas is 7-1, and the Cardinals are 10-1 to make the playoffs. I look at it and I say, why are the Raiders shorter odds than the Broncos at this point?
I have no idea. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. The Denver Broncos have a better defense. Their defense has been consistently good all year. They looked much better offensively in London. Look, it wasn't great, but they had touchdown drives in the second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. Then they've had the bye to kind of get ready. They're only 3-5. Out of all those you just gave me, Pat, I like the Broncos the best. Plus 800 for the Broncos. I actually think they have the best chance to make the playoffs out of the 5 teams you just named, and yet they've got the second longest odds, only in front of the Arizona Cardinals. So to me, it's clearly the Denver Broncos. We'll see if the time off and the time together helps Russell Wilson gel even more with his receivers. But those odds surprise me. And exactly what you said about the Raiders and Broncos, maybe it's something about the rest of the season schedule. I haven't gotten into that detail that much. Maybe that's the case, but I don't get it.
And for me, if you're giving me just the list of mentioned, I am keeping my money in my pocket. I would not wager on any of these teams to make the playoffs because all of them just look god-awful for a variety of reasons. But if it was gun to the head, then I would go with the Rams because they are still a top 10 defense. The offensive line is certainly susceptible, but if I'm backing a team to go over on its season win total, I want them to win games early in the season. Now, if I'm backing a team to make it into the playoff run, I want them to win games late in the season. There's still plenty of time. There's still plenty of football left. We're at the halfway mark. Seattle has a tough stretch here of games to close out, and the Rams, they get a home game against the Cardinals and a home game against Seattle. Maybe we could see some potential here in the second half of the season.
Yeah, I'd have to go with the Rams. And I think, Ross, maybe on the Broncos, is it the Chubb trade to Miami that does it? I mean, maybe an overreaction to that? That's the only thing I can think of.
I think that's part of it, and some of the injuries on the offensive line maybe part of it as well. But the Broncos have some other good rushers. I mean, Browning's been really impressive. I like the Benito kid. But I think maybe the fact that they made that move, that the odds makers look at that as sending a message that they're not really all in to try to make the playoffs this year, and they're kind of building more for the future.
I take a look at it and I see the Rams at 2-1 and the team that they're playing this week, the Cardinals, at 10-1. and they both have the same number of wins. So if the Cardinals can just beat the Rams this week, then they would theoretically have much better playoff odds at the moment than the Rams would. So not that I think that the Cardinals are going to make the playoffs, but as Pam, you pointed out, the Seahawks schedule gets tough. I still don't know what's going on with San Francisco. The books love San Francisco, but if they just continue to play 500 the rest of the season, there is a path for the Cardinals to. They don't even necessarily need the wild card. They could still outright win this division if everything breaks their way, and 10-1 to make the playoffs not only gives you the division plus the wild card. I think for pure value, I think what Ross said with Denver is probably most apt at 8-1, but I do think that the Cardinals at 10-1 is better than the Rams at 2-1 at the moment, because the Rams only have one play. It's throw it to Cooper Kupp. And if that can't beat the entire other team, Ross, they're not doing anything offensively.
It's a good play, though. It's a good play. It works a lot. I can't believe it. I mean, I'm watching these games, and it's like, make anybody do something other than Cooper Kupp. And yet, 2 or 3 times a game, he's still like wide open for these big gains. It blows my mind away. Look, I wasn't that great of a player, okay? But I never let the guy beat me with his best move, right? Like, it's going to be your second best move or your third best move. I'm not letting you beat me with the inside club or whatever it is that you do best. You're going to have to beat me with your second best thing. Credit McVay, I guess, for scheming up ways to get Cooper Kupp open, but it blows my mind away.
Well, I think it's time to make some picks for the week. So let's move on to Pick'em, brought to you by My OC Premium. And don't forget to head over to oddschecker.com and sign up for your very own My OC Premium account. For less than just $1 a day, you'll have access to our gambling experts, exclusive picks for NFL, MLB, college sports, NHL, UFC, NBA, golf, and so much more. Well, we went 4-2 last week, which means that if we just went 4-2 every week and you followed along, you never have to work again. All right, so let's hope we can continue that momentum. And we're going to start with Brian, who went a perfect 2-0. What do you got cooking for us in week 10?
All right, so we were just off camera talking about Patrick Mahomes. Look, I picked the Jaguars last week. I like the idea of fading them coming off a rare win. I think if you look at Devontae Adams and what he was able to do last week, I mean, 100-plus yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. So I look at Mahomes and what he's been doing. I think they're kind of an unstoppable force. I usually hate laying this many points, but I think with Buffalo's recent loss, in a potential first place spot, at stake, I like them at -9.5 here.
I'm going with the Cleveland Browns. I like what I saw from the Browns the other week on Monday Night Football. They played much better on defense than they had been playing for a long time. They have the right formula, the way they're playing offensively, running the football. And I think they have a decent chance to win this game outright. They're going against a Dolphins team that I think they've got the right formula for, because they're playing better defensively and they can run the ball and keep it away from Tua and Waddle and Tyreek Hill. I think there's a decent chance. Look, the Dolphins only beat the Bears by 3 points on Sunday. If you're going to give me more than that with the Cleveland Browns off a bye, off that Monday night performance, I'll take it. I'll take Cleveland getting the points.
Pam, you got wraparound picks here. This is where Brian was last week, so this is your chance to go 2-0.
Texans +6.5 at the Giants. I don't think I've backed the Texans once this season, but the Texans have found an offense in running back Dameon Pierce. Heavily utilized against the Eagles, 139 rushing yards. He was the only reason why Houston was able to be competitive against Philadelphia. He was decisive. He was quick behind an offensive line. That's what really impressed me. The offensive line really stepped up to give him the opportunities, and he could definitely be utilized heavily again this week against the Giants. Second worst in the league for opponent yards per carry. If they can continue that type of old school ground and pound, the Giants just allowed Jags running back Travis Etienne 114 rushing, Baltimore running back 119 rushing. So the opportunity is definitely there. And Dameon Pierce, he is a very good running back. He is just like a bulldozer of a player. So I really like his player props, and for Houston to maybe even come out with an upset win.
What else you got?
Oh, the Bears -2.5 at the Lions. I'm a Bears fan. I know, not an Eagles fan, but I'm a Bears fan. And I love what my Bears offense is doing right now. Justin Fields, he's going to exploit the Lions' dead last defense, unlike Aaron Rodgers. That was horrific from Aaron Rodgers. And I have more faith that Justin Fields will be able to exploit this defense than him. Because against Miami, the Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniels, he yelled at Fields to stop it. Did y'all see that? Stop what? Scrambling. Fields rushed for 178 yards in that game. He rushed for 80 plus in 4 of his last 5. A mobile quarterback is so frustrating to defend. And the impact, I'm more so happy to see that the impact that Fields has right now it's undeniable for this offense. His running ability has made the Bears offense diverse, explosive. Finally, it's something that we've been wanting to see as fans for the last couple of seasons. And it's not just his rushing, like his throwing ability has improved as well. 3 straight games, throwing at least 60 plus completion, 6 touchdowns in his last 3 games to only 1 interception. So I love the Bears -2.5, -3 against the Lions.
I am
Texans?
shocked that the Texan picked the Texans and somehow found a way to take a shot at the Eagles, even though they had nothing to do with her 2 picks. My second pick, I'm going with the Raiders. Now, they've been a disaster. I don't like the quotes coming out of Devontae Adams and Derek Carr, but now they're playing the Colts. And the Raiders are poised to play much better. They're playing at home. They actually looked pretty good in the first half till they blew it in the second half. I don't think Ellinger and Parks Frazier, the offensive coordinator, are going to be lighting up the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't like to lay 6.5, but this feels like a get-right game for the Raiders. I feel like the Colts are a mess. Maybe Pat's philosophy of them tanking is correct. I'll lay the 6.5 with the Raiders in my second pick.
Brian, we're going to close it out with you.
All right, so I know we were talking Denver Broncos and talking about their path to the playoffs. I like Tennessee -3 against the Broncos. The reason why, Broncos are giving up over 5 yards a carry. They've been getting gashed on the ground. We saw that the way that the Titans are able to make games competitive is by feeding Derrick Henry the ball a whole lot. I don't know if we'll get Ryan Tannehill back. I think if we do, it's definitely an upgrade from Malik Willis. I mean, they couldn't move the ball outside of just running it. But Denver's been giving up a lot on the ground. Like I said, Chubb's gone. Might affect the pass rush a little bit more. But I still like them in this spot.
All right, we know who we like straight up against the spread this week, but what if we were to add some points, either up or down, or maybe a total up or down? We need to talk about tucks, teasers, and pleasers for the week. Ross, where are you looking at?
I've got 3 I love, 1 I like. You guys know I like the Wong teasers, which means going through the key numbers of 3 and 7. That means I love taking Seattle up to 8.5 against Brady and the Bucs. I don't even know why the Bucs are favored in this game. Seattle's the better team. Every metric Pam has, I'm sure, says it. I don't know if they think Brady's better in Germany or what, but I'll take the Seahawks up to 8.5 and feel much, much better about it. I love that. I also like the Giants. I'll kind of go against one of Pam's picks. I'll take the Giants down to -0.5 point. They just have to win the game. It's going to be close. Every Giants game is close, but they usually win it. Just win the game. And then 2 more I like, because I like going against what Pam picks. So I also like Detroit up to 8.5. That's going to be a close game. If you can take Detroit from +2.5 up to +8.5, that's the right side to be on. And then how about the Steelers? They're getting 2.5 at home against the Saints. Did you watch the Saints play on Monday night? I will likewise take the Steelers off the bye, maybe getting TJ Watt back from 2.5 up to 8.5. Those are my 4 Tux teasers this week.
All right, well, that is going to do it for the Week 10 edition of The Huddle, presented by OddsChecker. I want to thank Pam. I want to thank Brian and Ross and all of you for being here and having some fun with us. Before we let you go, we wanted to tell you about the Spread Challenge, our way of giving you a chance to win $100 on us by simply predicting the spread of any 3 games correctly. Shout out to Rojo Reyes 18 for guessing the Patriots -5.5 correctly and winning $100 for Week 9. You can be our next winner, and it's free and easy to play. First, go follow our Instagram page at OddsChecker-US. Next, find and like our pinned post with all of this week's spreads. Then, all you got to do is comment with your spread predictions for any 3 games on the slate, and if you get them all right, you're automatically entered to win $100. But that's not all. in time for the holiday season, we're giving you a chance to win $500 on us, no strings attached. And if you've been trying for the spread challenge and you can't get those spreads right, this is even easier. All you gotta do is subscribe to our YouTube channel and you're automatically entered to win $500. It's that easy. And if you want to improve your chances, comment on any recent video with the item at the top of your shopping wish list for an extra entry. So subscribe for one entry, comment for another, and good luck.